Alrighty, so how are you feeling this morning?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay,
How
great.
about you? Can you hear
Yep,
me?
yep,
Microphone's working well?
yep. All is well.
Okay, awesome. So I was thinking we could start with an internalization. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead and close your eyes. And take a nice deep breath in. And exhale. Another nice deep breath in. Exhale. Inhale, heart is lifted. Exhale, jaw is relaxed. Forehead is relaxed. Inhale, we grow nice and tall. Exhale, shoulders are relaxed. Elbows relax. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale, collarbones are relaxed. Back is relaxed. Inhale, crown of the head is blooming. Exhale, lower back is relaxed. Abdomen relaxes. Inhale, exhale. Hips are relaxed. Thighs and hamstrings totally relaxed. Inhale, we grow tall. Exhale, we melt. Our knees are relaxed. Our calves are relaxed. Inhale, we grow tall. Exhale, our shins and ankles are relaxed. Our feet and toes totally relaxed. Our body, our neck, our forehead, our fingertips relaxed. We'll share a moment of gratitude for the science of yoga and Ayurveda and all of the sciences which we learn from. Express our gratitude to the teachers, the gurus, the sages, the physicians who held this knowledge together for ages, lineages upon lineages, generations upon generations of people who worked hard to work and preserve the knowledge, identify and share the knowledge that we can come together and learn and be better off. Om Ragandirogan Satatanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrutanasheshan Autsukhyamoharatitan Chakana Yo Purvaidhyaya Namostu Tasmai Ayushkami Hamatyayam Vyakhyasyamaha Iti Asmahuratreha Maharshaya Ayushkamayamaneha Dharmartha Sukhasadhanam Ayurveda Padesheshu Videya Paramandara Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bring your hands to Namaste position. Rub them together. Create heat. Place them on your face and over your eyes. And come back.
That was wonderful. You have a beautiful, beautiful voice,
Oh, thank you.
and your pronunciation spectacular.
Oh, thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love that first shloka in Ashtanga Hridaya, right? Rogadi Rogana. It's beautiful. Yeah,
It's so
wonderful.
beautiful.
I apologize about the phone call. I put my phone on focus, but somehow something slipped by. So.
No worries at all. Honestly, I was thinking that's perfect, right? Because we did the internalization first.
So, yeah, wonderful.
Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to start us off here.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Revathi Ramani. Revathi practiced as a pediatrician in conventional medicine for over a decade. She encountered some health issues within her family, and after going down the conventional medical route and being dissatisfied, she began her pursuit of alternative holistic medicine. Welcome to the show, Revathi.
Hello, nice to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Today we're exploring inflammation, gut inflammation, and what role diet and lifestyle has to play. So, Revathi, what is inflammation exactly, and what is gut inflammation?
Well, inflammation, let's start with the gut inflammation. It can be defined in so many ways in modern medicine. It can be defined as microbiome abnormalities, microbiome being all the bacteria, flora and fauna that live in the gut, and having that not work properly. It can happen because of different foods that we eat, or food-like substances, as I like to think of some of the things we put in our mouth. And all of this thing causes problems with our digestion, what can be termed as leaky gut, things that are supposed to keep going through our digestive tract somehow make it through our barriers within our cells that line our gut. And all of this causes inflammation in our body, in our gut, leading to all kinds of issues. And I believe this is really what is referred to as Jwara in Ayurveda in the most holistic and most umbrella-like term, this idea of inflammation or disease. And not, sometimes we think of Jwara in Ayurveda as just fever. And sometimes it's actually very encompassing according to Ashtanga Hridaya. And of course, when you study Ayurveda, the root of that is the gut.
Okay. Are you saying that gut inflammation is the cause of bodily inflammation?
It can certainly be the starting point for inflammation. Yes. And whether it causes it or whether it is a result of other abnormalities, it can I believe go both ways. Yes.
And so, who is this relevant for?
I believe this is relevant for everyone, because everyone has some sort of predisposition to different kinds of health issues. And as we see more and more in modern day society, there are very few people that really fit the definition of true health, according to Ayurveda, right? We have the samadosha, samagnisha, that whole sloka of having everything balanced. And then it finally ends with prasannatmendriya manaha swasta iti abhidiyate. That that who is completely in bliss. And so this is very encompassing definition, which I think very few people actually, have achieved that. And so who does it affect? It affects, I think, most of society and most people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You bring up an interesting point of, is it the gut that causes all inflammation, or is it, other way around? And a lot of things, we give so much importance to the gut, or the digestive fire that we call the status of Agni. There are multiple types of Agni, but the main type of Agni that, we focus on in Ayurveda is the digestive fire. And it's really important to know that different things affect the digestive fire. And one of the things that I think we overlook, in fact, I was just looking at my Madhava Nidana. I don't know if you can see this.
Mm.
It's backwards on there. It's my Madhava Nidana, and it's a great book. It's not the part of the Brihatrayani, but it's a great book too. It's a good summary of the Ashtanga Hridayam. And it says on here that this is chapter 6, and it says drinking large, well, let's go to the next part. Food partaken by a person who is afflicted with jealousy, fear, anger, greed, grief, hatred, confusion, does not get digested properly. You
Mm.
might be eating the right thing, you might be doing, everything right, but so is it the gut that causes this, or is it the emotions that cause this? It can absolutely be both ways. And so this mind-body connection that our ancient seers knew about, hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, was well thought out and analyzed, a long time ago.
It's absolutely beautiful. I gotta say, I always loved going over the different diseases during my schooling and looking at the causes of each one, and so consistently it would list the emotions. It would
Mhm.
list grief, fear, anxiety as a cause for these major diseases. And I just always loved seeing that we recognize that in Ayurveda.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think that, and it brings me actually to an interesting case that I had of a little kid who had allergies and, was being doing the right thing according to his mom in terms of eating the right foods per dosha. Everything was, right. And
Mm.
so why is this allergy and these things, or sickness, you would say maybe a weak ojas, right? Someone with weak ojas who falls ill very often. Um, why is this happening? So you go through and then you get into it a little bit more, and right before this kid would have an infection, if it was just a cold or whatever it was, he would have an outburst. This is a kid that was prone to temper tantrums, right? So, and there was a very easy to see correlation between temper tantrums and falling sick for this kid, especially, and how it can really burn through your immune defenses. Um, so yeah, it's not something that we take lightly, and it's not something that we just dismiss. At the same time, we have to learn how to focus and not control, but to try to go beyond our emotions to improve our health and our state of inflammation.
In Ayurveda, we each have a unique mind body constitution, a genetic, physical, psychic, biological blueprint that is unique to us.
Mhm,
You said eating per your dosha.
mhm.
What is it that Ayurveda has to offer us in terms of gut inflammation?
Mhm. Well, absolutely. You know, the doshas I'm sure you've spoken about in your previous podcasts, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And Vata being this, having this element of dryness because of wind and air. So those kinds of people, if they are going to eat, say, a diet that's predominantly raw, like raw, lot of raw leafy greens and maybe not enough cooked food, those are the people that for whom that dosha will be aggravated, right? So those are the people you want to have that have maybe more nourishing, maybe lightly steamed food. If they prefer raw food, then maybe lightly steamed would be a good what do you call it, bartering tool
Mhm.
to sort of make it a little bit more uh, incongruent with what their nature is, right?
Sure. A
You
balancing
have
mechanism.
someone, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you have someone who is vata, maybe you can encourage them to add some more, steamed or roasted sweet potatoes in their diet, or maybe more fruits, maybe more lightly steamed vegetables to their salad. You can still call it a salad and have it a mix of lightly steamed vegetables with your spice blend on top, right? Um, People who are predominantly pitta will do well eating according to their dosha. So their dosha, which is pitta, is mostly fire element, fire and water, but you think of it as fire. The water has to be there to control the fire, otherwise you would have just uncontrollable fire, right? So when you think of it as fire, what are things that are cooling? So things that are sweet in nature, ripe fruit, sweet potatoes, are all great. And drinking certain amounts of, cooling vegetables, things like squashes and I guess technically they're fruit, right? Cucumbers is maybe technically considered a fruit, but still, those are vegetables that we eat, foods that we eat that contain more water element in it, and that can be more cooling. Bitter foods like bitter melon, um, I just mentioned bitter melon and sweet potatoes, so those are perfect for a pitta type. And then you have the kapha type, which is this idea of earth element and heaviness and water and earth. And so these are the people, they might put a little bit more weight a lot more easily. And so these are the people that you want to have, they can have more green leafy vegetables, and they can certainly have more fruits, and they can certainly have more spices in their diet. Things that are heating, maybe warm teas that there's a coolness that's associated with the heaviness of earth element. And so when you have some warmth or some pitta to some fire to it, they tend to, their digestion tends to do a little bit better.
I want to cycle back to something that you mentioned, which is a really beautiful concept and tethers into my next question. So, my question is what what about for the person who's like, I'm healthy, like I'm good, I don't have any chronic diseases, my blood tests show up fine when I go to the doctor. What does Ayurveda have to offer them?
Well, first of all, a lot of people think they're healthy or they're eating healthy. And I find this all the time. People think they're healthy, and that's great. That's great that their numbers are okay. But when you look and see actually what exactly they're eating, they're a lot. First, think to yourself, are you actually eating food? And I think this is a very basic thing. What is food? When it's gone through so many processes and um, so much industrialization, is it still considered food? And yes, you might have great numbers, but are you eating food? And there are so many micronutrients to things that are in vegetables and fruits and in whole foods that you might be missing if all you're eating is, yes, it might be calorically okay, but now you're missing a lot of things like fiber. And that if you see an actual Ayurvedic physician or an Ayurvedic practitioner, they can do some assessment on you and see what maybe dosha you have that's predominant, and what you can eat according to that might be most suitable for you at that period in time. And I think that a lot of people go around thinking, oh, I think I'm okay, and then slowly things build up. Diseases don't happen overnight, right? They happen slowly through a long period of time. And we go through the 6 stages of how a disease happens in Ayurveda. But regardless what it is that you want to make sure that you're nourishing your body properly. And I think that's something that everyone can benefit from.
You mentioned the 6 stages of disease, and I have to just comment on that because that is one of my absolute favorite aspects of Ayurveda. I think it's one of the most empowering aspects of Ayurveda. The 6 stage disease process that she's referring to is, this is for my listeners, obviously, because I just referred to you as she, Revathi, excuse me,
Sure,
for
sure,
recording.
absolutely, yeah.
It's called the Shadkriya Kala, and it begins at the very beginning, like the energetic imbalance, and moves through how that energetic imbalance develops and accumulates over the body, and then eventually manifests into the physical tissues and continues from there. And so, of that 6 stage process, your standard disease, when it's actually classified according to conventional medicine, is stage 5.
And you want to try to balance yourself well before you get to that stage, if you can, if you're open to it. And I think that's important, is finding someone who's open to it, because if you look at Ashtanga Hridayam, the first chapter in there is Ayush Kamiyam, and Ayush Kamiyam is the desire for a long life, a desire for a good life. And if you truly have that desire, then you'll have the motivation to try to learn more, at least to try to learn more, right? To the first step is to try to learn more and to try to understand yourself. And that's why we do these doshic assessments. You try to understand yourself, and you try to understand what is most suitable for you, most beneficial for you, what kind of environment is most beneficial for you. And and that will give you the motivation to maybe make some changes in your life. And regarding what you said about, you had asked me about, people who think they're healthy. I had spent a number of years in practice, and we always ask people about their bowel movements. It's and as a pediatrician, and I always get giggles from these kids who don't. What, why are you asking me about my bowel movement? But it's important. In medicine, it's important, and in Ayurveda, it's very important. So most people will say, oh, yeah, yeah, it's fine. It's all good. Yeah, I have normal bowel movements. Well, when I was in practice, I had a chance to do abdominal x-rays on people for various reasons. And regardless, everyone who had said they had normal bowel movements, they would do the x-ray and you would see it was full of stool. And that would be one of the, I mean, if you have a good radiologist who reads the x-ray, um, they should comment on that. And a lot of times, in fact, I just want to share an interesting case with you. I had a beautiful kiddo who was having chest pain for over a year. This kid who was very active, elementary school kid, was having chest pain, and had seen a pediatric cardiologist, got tested up and down the wazoo, up and down the wazoo. Everything was normal. Everything was normal. It was a beautiful, beautiful little kid, and very active in some sort of jump roping club. And jump roping is a very physical activity. So, and I took one look at her and I said, I think you're constipated.
Mm,
And the mom was like, no, come on, that's not true.
mm,
And so for this kiddo, I had to do an abdominal x-ray, and I brought it up, she came back for the follow-up appointment. I brought it up on my computer. I showed her the x-ray and I said, look, this is, and the mom and the child were just, totally like, oh my gosh. And that was it. It just took that knowledge of, oh, this is the cause of my problem. It's so important to know what a good bowel movement is. And many kids actually did not know what a good bowel movement was. And kids grow up, when they're at the age where mommy or daddy is not accompanying them to the bathroom, they don't know. They just know they go, and that's good enough, right? Then you have to get back to playing, which is the most important thing as a kid. So it's certainly not their focus, but the type of foods that they eat, which is a reflection of what the parents eat and what the family eats, right, is what's causing, these gut issues. And again, we're going back to the gut because this is a kid who's had chest pain now for over a year, where it went away once she realized what the problem was and how to deal with the problem. So
Wow. So what is a healthy bowel movement? Like, how can people know whether or not
it's
it's
hard to
good?
know. I think most people don't know, and I don't think you will know unless you've had a healthy bowel movement, which most people, I think, which some people have never probably had.
Yeah.
They really haven't. And again, this goes back to eating for your dosha. People with vata or pitta imbalance, I really think that fiber plays a huge role in this. It plays a tremendous role. And an easy way and a fun way to get fiber is to eat fruits, sweet, ripe fruits, cooked beans. Cooked beans. You're going to get fiber only by eating plants, by the way. There's no fiber in animal products. And I'm not sitting here, telling everyone that they should become a vegetarian or anything like that. But if you want to be healthy, I truly feel like you need to have slowly build yourself up to eat a good amount of fiber. And I think that once you've had a good bowel movement, you feel good. You just feel good. I know that because when we started slowly changing our diet as a family, I've had certain of my own family members tell me, "Wow, I never, I feel good after having good bowel movements." So, um,
You
yeah,
know, I can
yeah.
share. So I always had good bowel movements as far as I was concerned. If you would have ever asked me, like, how are your bowels? I'd be like, what are you talking about? They're fine. In fact, growing up, I was known as the world's fastest pooper. Like, I could, it was so fast. I would go in, it would go out, and I was done, right? And however many years ago, I don't know when it was, I was introduced to the squatty potty and squat pooping, assuming the position of a squat when pooping. And it changed my life. I mean, I remember trying it for the first time and I was like, oh my God, this is how it's supposed to feel. I mean, it blew me away.
Yeah, absolutely. We have that in each, in our bathrooms. Yeah. So makes a huge difference. Um, this idea of the angle and everything, because, there was a point in time when we as human beings did not have sit down toilets, right? We just had to squat in an area outside, right? And that's how you would go. So that the squatty potty, which Daryl's referring to, helps with the angle and the proper maybe positioning or posture to have that's most conducive to have a good bowel movement. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
What are the most harmful foods for our health?
Well, I again, I feel like we use the term food very loosely and very broadly. First of all, when I see kids or people in general that consider themselves as eating food, and you take a good diet history, and what they're eating is maybe a lot of takeout, a lot of frozen foods, a lot of packaged foods, a lot of maybe uh, the highly refined foods, highly refined eating products, right? They're not whole foods. And so I think those that people consider foods that are not really food is actually the most harmful food. It's the most processed food, right?
Mm.
And in each stage of that process, because of the world and the environment that we live in, there are more and more contaminants that are introduced. For example, microplastics. It's everywhere, and it just tends to bioaccumulate a lot in a lot of maybe certain uh, types of meat products or highly processed products. Things that involve a lot of processing tend to have more of these microplastics, which nobody wrote about in Ayurveda, but I think every person would feel, geez, I don't really want that in my body. We don't know what those effects are going to be, but I can't imagine that it would be good. So, yeah, so I would really have people take a look at, what you eat, what you put in your mouth, what you drink, and is it made with stuff that I would call a primary source of food, fruits, vegetables, and if you have meat, is it unprocessed meat? If you have highly processed, like deli type meats, those I that is actually listed as a type 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization. So I would be very careful. Um, because it's highly processed. And regarding milk, Ayurveda is also pretty careful about milk. There's a whole movement about having raw milk. And Ayurveda is very much in support of boiling the milk. I think this is very important. If you take milk, uh, and this, I feel like a lot of people just have cereal for breakfast because it's easy. So you pour a very highly processed food-like substance into a bowl, and then you take milk that is cold from the fridge, and then you pour it on top, and there's your breakfast. So milk is meant to be cooked, and if you look at Ashtanga Hridayam, it talks about uncooked milk versus cooked milk. And the milk that, people used to get would be from a farm. Someone would milk the cow and they would deliver it to you daily, right? And if it was, generally that was raw milk and you would have to boil it. I think that's key. You would have to boil that milk. Well, the milk that we get here it's not boiled, it's pasteurized. And it's a lot less than the boiling point of milk. That's not to say, like, it will definitely kill your major bacteria, right? So hopefully you're not going to get E. coli or certain bacteria that is associated with raw milk. But it's certainly not achieved its boiling point. And I'm going to digress a little bit from Ayurveda and go into medicine here, or just, I guess, science, is that now you have things that maybe are not bacteria that are still harmful because you haven't boiled it, right? So you have things like bovine leukemia virus that can still be present in milk. And then you have things like mycobacterium. These are uh, critters, I would say. They're not bacteria, but viruses and mycobacterium. It's a different category of not healthy things that you want to be exposed to. And if you look at more traditional societies in India, many people that get milk in the morning, they boil their milk. And so you're not, if you're drinking milk straight from the fridge, it hasn't been through that process. And these things that I've just mentioned are associated with other illnesses. So I like to leave it at that. I don't want to get too much into that because then you can go down to a rabbit hole. But I think it's important, if you're going to consume milk, like if you're going to have tea or even a cup of milk, to try to bring it to a quick boil at least. Yeah.
So that's interesting. I was under the impression that pasteurization, flash pasteurization, the reason why it was so harmful to the milk was because it was too hot, that it would bring the temperature to too high of a temperature, which would then kill the beneficial microbes in the milk.
You're going to, when you have cooked milk, you will kill the microbes. If you're drinking milk for microbes, you're not, you're going to kill the microbes in the milk. You should be having microbes by maybe having some sort of, a small amount of fermented food, or, that's a good way to introduce healthy microbes in your system. And buttermilk is a great way to do that. But of course, the boiling point of milk is close to the boiling point of water, which is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Because we live in America, we still use Fahrenheit. Other parts of the world, it's 100 degrees Celsius, right? So the boiling temperature, I believe, of pasteurization and even flash pasteurization is, I think, a maximum of, I think, 160, 161 degrees Fahrenheit. So when you do studies, there are certain diseases that we see more of in parts of the world where they only pasteurize. And don't get me wrong, pasteurization has done a lot for getting rid of harmful bacteria that can cause really a lot of damage. But boiling does a better job in getting rid of these other things, like, or helping to reduce, I should say, these other factors.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people that if you're going to drink milk, try to bring it to a boil, and just heating it lightly may not be sufficient. Um,
Okay.
Having your own cow and milking it yourself, I guess, is ideal, but no one does that. So
Certainly. So
yeah.
then that's making me think that the major difference between raw milk, why raw milk is so recommended versus the processed pasteurized milk is because of the homogenization processing, how they remove the fat from all of the milk and then they add it back in for 2%
Right, right.
fat
That
and
whole process is it's a bit, again, it's still gone through a lot of processing. And certainly, raw milk, again, raw milk is not recommended per Ayurveda, but um, when you have
you mean
milk,
raw.
like if the cow is right here and you are standing right next to the cow and you're drinking the milk immediately, of course, I'm even hesitant to say this because I don't even want people to do this here, because I don't feel like the cows are healthy here, first of all, to do that. So I don't even want to even mention that. But again, if you're going to have full fat milk, you're going to have cholesterol in it that's now oxidized, because you're not drinking it right away, right? You're going to have oxidized cholesterol in there because cholesterol is made, it's an animal product. There is no plant that has actual cholesterol. We have phytosterols, but cholesterol is milk is still considered an animal product. And so if you're going to have a full fat milk that's been sitting in grocery store for, who knows how long, right? Um, that cholesterol is fully oxidized in there probably by the time you get to it, right?
Hmm.
So it's I would just be careful with milk. And it's important to know that, like, again, the when you make milk products like yogurt, right? Of course, yogurt, when you make yogurt, you're supposed to boil your milk. So hopefully if you're making yogurt at home, you brought your milk to a boil, and hopefully you've gotten rid of whatever that stuff is, and you can culture your milk and make yogurt, and then from that you can make buttermilk, which is, I think, more ideal than yogurt by far.
And how do you do that?
So I just take, well, first of all, churning the butter and collecting the milk is not a possibility for me. But that's the true definition of buttermilk, right? But what we can do nowadays is we can take our yogurt and we can mix it, maybe 1 part yogurt, 2 parts water, however thin you like it. Uh, and you can whip that up really quick. You can blend it if you have a blender, or you can do it by hand if you want to just, shake it up really well. Um, and you've thinned it out, and you're not taking, it's not as vitiating. Yogurt can be vitiating for kapha dosha, for pitta dosha, and uh, not as good for Agni, and I feel like buttermilk is a better option.
Beautiful. I'm told that the blending is very important, that it makes all
Yeah,
the difference.
yeah, yeah. So that's
Okay.
that's my little rant on milk.
Yeah, I love that we went down the milk rabbit hole. I could talk for hours about milk. So just to clarify, if we're buying milk from the store, we want to bring it to a boil. Raw cow's milk is great if you boil it.
Boil it. Please boil it. Yeah, please
Uh-huh.
do boil it. I certainly don't recommend raw milk. And if you boil it, don't, if you're buying, like, say, half a gallon of milk, don't bring the whole thing to a boil and then stick it back in the fridge. It's not going to last long like that. In fact, it
Mm,
goes bad, I think, very quickly like that. So what you want to use for the day, take it out, boil it, and
mm,
then try to use it that day. I don't
mm.
think it tastes good. If whatever you don't use, you can now make it into yogurt, right? So because it's been boiled, and you can make it, culture it, and add your culture and make it into yogurt. Um, so yeah, bring it to a boil.
Beautiful. How can I leverage this knowledge that my mind and body and gut are connected? Well, like, how can I bring that to a practical action in my life and improve my nourishment?
Well, I'm not sure I fully understand your question, but I think where you're getting at is how can you take this knowledge and put it into action, if I'm understanding you correctly, right? Okay. So now you know what to eat. Make an effort to do that, right? And you know what kind of emotions can trigger your health. And this is well before, you have a disease or you're labeled with a disease. And what kind of things you can do to, again, I don't like to use the word control your emotions, but to bring yourself from that sympathetic nervous system where you're constantly, go, 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 or stressed or nervous, and bring yourself more into the parasympathetic nervous system. We have two types of nervous systems. One is the sympathetic, the fight or flight. The other is the parasympathetic, which is the rest and relax, or rest and digest. And healing, it's very difficult to heal if you're constantly in your sympathetic nervous system. If that's where you live most of the time, it is very difficult to heal. No matter how many herbs you give them, no matter how many herbs you take, no matter how how good a food that you try, how great a diet that you try to eat, it's going to be very difficult to heal. And what you want to try to do is what you started out doing in the very beginning of our talk, that internalization of just going within, and it really triggers your parasympathetic nervous system. And it's a simple thing, what kind of things relax you? Is it certain types of music? Is it imagery? Uh, Imagery can be a very powerful tool. Is it constant reminders, just the constant practice, or constant aphorisms that you might, self mantras, I would say, self mantras that you just tell yourself repeatedly to bring about this change internally. And breathing can be a very, very, very powerful tool to try to get you into the parasympathetic nervous system. is to try to get you away from those emotions and to just not focus on them, at least for a few minutes. And that can be very powerful. And one of the things that we can do to help our, how we want to breathe is to slow our breathing down. And we found that when we slow our breathing down to 6 breaths a minute, you tend to trigger your parasympathetic. You tend to go into your parasympathetic nervous system. And even better if you slow it down to 6 breaths a minute and you can increase your ratio of inhalation to exhalation being 1 to 2. In other words, you're exhaling longer than you're inhaling. And you can do that in a sustained way when you're comfortable, like not when you're, you need to be focused, or not when you're doing something where you have to be really, really like you're driving. That's not the time when you want to be focused and alert. But when you have a minute or two in life, everyone has a minute or two. I tell people to just take a breath. And the ideal time is before going to bed. You've gone through everything during the day, and at the end of the day, you can even be in bed. You can be in bed and just about, a lot of people have sleep issues. Try to get yourself into that parasympathetic nervous system and slow down your breath. Do your imagery at that time. Whatever it is that makes you peaceful and relaxed, and slow your breath down to 6 breaths a minute. And this can be extremely helpful, especially in combating whatever stresses. We all face stress. Every one of us, we live in this world, we face stress. And what can we do to bring that state of relaxation where healing happens? In fact, an interesting story, I had met an OBGYN doctor, and he a very, very smart person. He would do procedures, he'd have to do procedures on women for various things. And he would always ask them before their procedure, did you have an argument or fight with your partner? And if they did, he would cancel that procedure because they would not heal well. They would not heal well. Everything could be fine. The procedure could go smoothly, whatever it was. And then afterwards, their recovery would be hampered because of the state of their emotions. So
Wow.
you don't
Honestly,
find very many doctors like that. So,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
when you said that, I immediately thought, just imagine like if you adopted that practice across the country, how that changes things. It's so beautiful, it's so powerful, and it honestly reminds me of a period in my life. I'd say it was approximately 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even 4 or 5 years ago, where I was the most rigid with my Ayurveda lifestyle. I mean, I ate at almost the exact same time every day. I mean, I was annoying to be around. Like I'd be at my parents' house, I'd be like, "Guys, it's 5:45. Where's the dinner?" Like I was mad, and I was doing all of the stuff, and I was so in that sympathetic nervous system. I was so stressed about being healthy that was easily the lowest health I've ever had. I was in the worst state of health I've ever been in during that time when I was trying so hard to be healthy.
It makes a big difference. It really does, because you have rigidity and then you have discipline. And how do you have discipline without that sense of rigidity? You have to ease into things and make it fun and make it relaxed. And when you're able to do that and be flexible, right? Because there are times when you travel and you don't get to have everything that you want to eat all the time, especially if you're gone for an extended period of time. And it's just a matter of being flexible and being relaxed and going with the flow, being more kapha.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. How can our listeners get in contact with you, Revati?
Yeah, so I have a website, threeriversayurveda.com, and when I'm really inspired, I try to put up a blog. So I haven't added too much to it, but hopefully down the road there will be more. And I have an email, info@threeriversayurveda.com. And you can certainly call. My practice number is 260-355-5801, and I should, be available. I do see clients now on a telehealth basis. And so right now I'm seeing people in Indiana and from the state of California because I still do have my medical license. And as of today, that's where I have my medical licenses. So.
Beautiful. I'll definitely link those things in the
Mhm.
podcast description. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Alrighty, take care.
Peace.
Yay!